Hello.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Science of Superpowers. So glad you're joining us. I am joined here with Debbie Esparza. Hi, Debbie. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm so glad you're here with us. We'll get to Debbie here in just a second, talking all about her superpowers as part of our feature. The Superpower Network celebrates courageous creativity with pride, honoring LGBTQIA plus contributions to how we see our world, how we see each other, how we express ourselves, how we live, and how we love. In every era, every culture, and every nation, individuals challenging the status quo for an opportunity to creatively self-express make it possible for all of us. Thank you for having the courage to share you with us and inviting us to look deeper within ourselves toward what's possible. We love you, love each other. Debbie, so glad you're joining us here. So delighted that you're part of this feature. We're going to jump into our relationship, how you came to be here. But first, we want to ask you the pivotal question. What are your superpowers and how are you using them for good?
Yeah, the one I'm going to name, the superhero I'm going to name today, because we all have several. I think is my ability to embrace love and connection, and how that's really creating a lot of exciting things for me, in and my world right now. So love is a superpower. Creating that space for people to grow into their own superpowers. You know that one. That's kind of what I'm going to lean on, I think, today. Love as a superpower.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And that's what we're talking about, making way for others, right? This whole feature is really about what is it about this conversation of otherness or differentness or that really gets us kind of all angst and what does it really look like to envision a world that works for all of us, right? Because I think if we're honest, a lot of the ways of beingness haven't really ever worked for anybody, but we sort of accepted them maybe, and certainly coming out of the LGBTQIA plus community, we see all kinds of stories about the ways in which these systems don't work for everybody. And I think we can relate to that, right? And so I'd love for you to share a little bit of your story. I know we met at the YWCA here in Phoenix of the mission of eradicating racism and empowering women. And you're such a beautiful voice, an active voice in all kinds of communities, just encouraging us to love, right? Encouraging us to tap into that superpower and remembering that we are bigger, we are connected, and ultimately what we do to one, we do to all. And so talk with me a little bit about how did you just wake up and that was your vision? You from infancy, was that a developmental journey for you? How did you come into this?
I think, Tonya, I think I've known it for a very long time. It's just, there's the part of the systems and society that don't want you to embrace some of your superpowers and live as fully as you can. So much of my upbringing and my education and my early careers were very focused on doing what other people said success looked like. And in all of those journeys, I bumped my head against patriarchy and hierarchy and perfectionism and being having to assimilate, code switch, and do things that were not my full self, and they often always gave me angst and uncomfortable feelings. What showed up for me when this role happened, the CEO of YWCA Metro Phoenix, and I decided to apply for it. I wasn't looking for a job, but I know the YWCA from a couple of decades, having previously served on their board, understanding their mission. I see the world through the lens of race and gender, if that's a superpower too. I mean, the whole world is, how does this impact women and people of color? But this role gave me permission, if I want to say that, to be who I am and show up as what I call a brown gay boomer, to lead this organization in this very tumultuous time where folks need folks to lead with authenticity and transparency and with love instead of fear. And so it just was the natural role for me right now. I often am heard saying, I wish I had this role 20 years ago, which is when I first learned about the work of the YWCA. because I may have not spent the previous 20 years, doing things other people thought were a success. And now my success is measured differently. And so I don't know if that answered your question, but I'm here on purpose. Literally, I'm here with intention. And I'm here with joy and love, even though sometimes that's hard to hold.
Yeah, the walk of the social impact professional, right, is no joke. Let's let people know where they can find out more about your work over at the Y and the beautiful team that you've cultivated there and the wonderful things you're doing for our community. Where can we send them to find out more about the Y?
Well, you can always go to our website, www.ywcaaz.org, or you can find us on all the social media platforms at YWCA-AZ.
Beautiful. Very honored to serve on the board there. We volunteer there. Our whole family does. And it's a remarkable mission to be a part of, a great team over there. So get involved, right? This is the time to think about where you want to funnel your creative energy into making an impact. I dare say that social impact is going to be the focus for all of us in the very, very near future. And I haven't met very many individuals who don't realize that there are some serious conversations happening about how we all gather, how we connect, how we share spaces. And those are pretty significant conversations, and they will shape the world that we live into. And so getting involved now, becoming a social impact professional now allows your voice to be part of that, allows you to have those realizations 20 years earlier, right? Of like, wait, maybe I don't want to live this way. Maybe I don't want to contribute to things like this. Maybe I don't want to build my business this way. We've had those realizations in our own work, our own walk. And it's layer upon layer upon layer, folks. Be gentle with yourselves. Really, these are developmental processes that we're under, and they're pretty deep, like at the nature of our existence, who we believe ourselves to be. These aren't gentle matters that we're diving into. And so now more than ever, we need to make sure that we're thinking about others, who's slipping through the cracks, right? Who doesn't have what we have? And Debbie, one of the things that I really honor about you and appreciate is your willingness to always speak about privilege and its multifacetedness, because it does have a lot of faces and it is present for all of us. All of us have some sort of privilege of something, right? If you know how to take a deep breath and find peace and calm within yourself, that is a privilege. Pass it on to others, right? Find your privilege, pass it on. Find your privilege, pass it on, because we all have privilege of something somewhere. And so Debbie, in your work, you're making some waves, doing some radical things, proving, like walking that talk, right? Like, I love the fact that you don't keep it at the theoretical. You're really bold and radical, saying, hey, we're going to try this. We're not going to make it about the money. And I just really appreciate that about you. So talk to us a little bit about what that's done for you, what kind of growth you've undergone, but then also the incredible benefits and rewards that are happening because of that sort of walk of faith of like, I think we can just vote on love and humanity.
Yeah, thank you. That has been a journey. And I do recognize that I have had privilege, and I understand so clearly that it's my role to share that privilege and leverage that privilege for good, right? One of my favorite things I heard someone say in a bio for me, I said, and something about, and Debbie the disruptor. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize it was that obvious, but good. Yes.
Oh, yes. We all know, Debbie.
And just being willing to stand in that and be the one to stand and in that disruptive space, and not shrink, and not retreat, because it's in that disruptive space that you create the new playing ground for what's going to be built next, that generative space. You can't get to the generative space unless you take something down or make that clearing. And, for those folks that built the system that's not working for most people, they don't like it when we disrupt it. And when we, take it down to create something that's more equitable, or more just, or has more social impact, for everyone, not just those that have. it is uncomfortable for those folks. And I do watch their faces sometimes when I say, and how do you think that will impact women and people of color? And they say, good question. I don't know. And I said, we should explore that. Or when I'm in a conversation with folks that have power, right, and resource, coming up with new programs and ways to solve, problems in the community, and they come up with all these, and then I say, well, have you actually asked the people that this impacts? Have you convened some folks that would be a part of this to see what they need, what they want, how they feel? Oh, well, no, we haven't done that. Well, let's do that. Let's get to the ground truth. What's really going to work here? And listen to the voices that are so often not heard, or the people that are unseen, and really learn from that and see what we can do. And again, I guess that is Debbie, the disruptor, going like, again, I think you said one time, I don't work from the theory. I work from the implementation, from the impact, from the action, from the experience, and really value that. That my experience has served me better than my education many times. But again, education was a privilege as well, so I don't take it for granted. But I think, I'll stop there.
I love it. It's beautiful. And folks, it's okay. It only hurts for a second, right? You can just lie there and take it. I just had to get that one in. Anyway, it really only does hurt for a second as you watch your world crumble, because ultimately at the end of the day, that the discomfort is in realizing that you've been carrying your own dissonance. Like you've been carrying your own strife. Intrinsically, we all know this isn't working. It's not even working for the sensitive aspects inside of each one of us. And all of us have it, right? We are selling ourselves out every time we do. That's what's so ridiculous about it all. When you and I talk a lot about the need for energetic sensitization, energetic communication, like understanding that we're dealing with nuances and things that are happening under the surface. And women and people of color have known this forever, right? I call it the prey filter, right? When you walk around with a prey filter on, you know a whole lot about yourself, about others, about the world, because you have to constantly translate the world. You have to constantly translate yourself into this middle space that you have to create that isn't you. It isn't the world, but it's this kind of middle space, right? Well, that variability has become incredibly valuable right now. As we move into this evolution of humanity, that is the exact process that is necessary to build into spaces that we can't see yet. So women and people of color who have evolved through that identity are sitting in pretty powerful positions right now, because we possess abilities that far exceed those of individuals who never really had to analyze themselves or think about it or think about others. Right. That's a big problem. And so that's where I see the beauty in the balance, right? It's kind of like, privilege is it's a thing, right? You can't have it without accepting the fact that it's got this natural self-destruct property to it. It has to, because it always seeks to protect itself, which means it is always defending against something else, which is something inside of us every time, because we can't be separate from ourselves. So it creates this whole real dissonance inside of us. And it does create discomfort. Face it, folks. There's no way out of this. I love talking with people who are like, oh, oneness and everything else. Like, you're not getting there unless you look at race, unless you look at gender and your relationship to it, because it does matter. We do identify with it in our culture. If we didn't, it wouldn't be a big deal, but we do, so it is. And so we have to look at anywhere that we think we are something and not something else, and see where we've compromised our humanity and get real in touch with that. And I actually think that's the fear, especially in the LGBTQIA plus community, because it's the one that scares us the most, because it's the easiest one to target. And I think it's the one where we realize just how much of ourselves we have compromised.
Yeah. Let me share. You just triggered a thought. In 2018, I had, again, the privilege to attend the Gay Games, which it happens like the Gay Olympics. And there were 10,000 LGBTQIA folks from all around the world competing in 60 different sports. I danced, I competed in dance sport. And I got to tell you, Tonya, I was afraid for a bit. I was incredibly proud to be among, right? And to be seen in this collective and felt. But I also said, oh my, there are 10,000 of us proudly marching around, right? In one city. Somebody could hate us enough to cause harm. And I was so upset that I had to think that. I didn't have to think that. I was so upset that I thought that. Because I was there wanting to be full of joy and pride and dancing. And for, the first few moments, I'm like, somebody could kill me just because I'm here to dance with a woman. And that was very sad. But that's part of what I heard in you saying that, there are these things that some people don't see that cause that fear. And you can yield to the fear and not go to Paris and dance, or you could, experience it and say, I'm still going to find the joy in this and be all that I am and come to do what I agreed to do. So again, a silly example, but it's still, it was a very poignant moment in my experience that. And for my dance partner, who is a cisgender white woman, I'm brown, and she's married to a man. She didn't have that same fear. Her fear was different. Her fear was, I'm surrounded by 10,000 LGBTQ folks, and I'm the other, right? And it wasn't me that was the other. So again, just kind of holding that in different ways.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that story and the realness of it, right? And I think, if our world wasn't so cruel, then we wouldn't have an LGBTQI plus community, because we would just be, right? If we would just be able to be present and reimagine. And I really see this in the younger generations, this fluidity. And it's not new. It's just our systems don't support it, right? We don't think that way because our programs train us to think in very constructed ways. And so it is evolving, and it's a huge, huge unfair ask for anybody to stand up and be seen and to speak into this. And we know it, and it has to be done, right? And so it's going to take those of us to say, you know what? Whatever happens here happens. We're going to live beyond this, knowing ourselves is bigger than this. And we're going to do everything we can here while we're here. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we know who we are, and we will not cheapen ourselves to participate in things that dehumanize anybody. Right. Even if it means the demise of our physical beingness, we won't do it. And that's a stance, right? And that's a stance for humanity, but we have to be able to see ourselves beyond just ourselves. And that takes the scope that you're talking about, some identifying, starting with putting yourself in positions where you are the other. I lived my life that way. I wanted to be the only one everywhere, because you get to see so much and be in so much, and you get to examine yourself and be like, whoa, that is not what I was taught, and that's not how it was shown to me. And that's cool. Like, we all have different realities, but you get to learn a lot, right? It starts there, and then it goes to, and then you show up in that and you say, hey, I have friends. Like, you run every comment through all of those people you learn to love. Mm-hmm. So if they found out that I was sitting here and heard that said, and I nodded my head in agreement, I'm not sure how I could live with myself. Mm-hmm. And you hold that relationship and that love and that connection ahead of your comfort in social situations. Right. And sometimes that does lead to violence, right? It's not necessary. Right? There's a whole escalation of force we could talk about, but to at least say, I'm just not comfortable being a party to this, right? And just not, right? Not be complicit and complacent to things that would hurt the people that we care about. But it has to start with us caring about people, which means we have to initially care about ourselves enough to figure out what that looks like.
Right.
Right.
And earlier on, you mentioned social impact professionals. And what I'm hearing you mention now is that we're just social impact humans, right? This doesn't have to be my job to create social impact. Like I'm again privileged. Like somebody pays me, well, I have to raise all the money that to pay us.
You
But
pay yourself, but that's cool.
yeah, so somebody pays me to do this work with joy, and many of the folks that connect with the YWCA are folks that are advocating for what they care about, and that's still social impact, even if it's not your job, your professional. It's being a social impact human being, that humanity. And how am I contributing to the community that I'm living in? And making, again, space for all of us to be included and heard and seen and cared for, right? I think that's an important part, that care and that compassion is really key. And that, again, back to the superpower of love and compassion.
Yes, I love. Well, that's a beautiful, beautiful note to end on, folks. Folks, you can start with thinking about where are you taking more than you're giving, right? And give back, give first, right? And then extend that and just continue to see and stretch yourself to see how many people you can connect into, right? How much light you can shine, make a game out of it. Just turn it around. When you're feeling kind of down and stuff, see where you can go contribute, go volunteer, go help out. I promise you, it changes your outlook. It reconnects you into your humanity, into humanity as a whole. And it reminds you that there's a whole lot that matters out there, folks. And it is worth being lit up about. And so, Debbie, thank you on behalf of all of us for your courage, for your creativity, for your disruption, for your willingness to just be you and to share that so openly with all of us. We know that it's been a walk and a forging, and we don't take that lightly. And so we say thank you to you.
Thank you. And I will say there's a little thing on my wall that says, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace.
Agreed. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Make sure you go participate with the Y, donate, volunteer, whatever you can do. YWCAAZ.org, doing phenomenal work under Debbie's leadership. And shout out to the teams over there and the board and everyone making all of that possible. You all are amazing, and we're excited to be back in there with you. Get over to superpowerexperts.com and get that training you need to be effective in your social impact, right? It's super simple. Super easy, walk through the steps and then work with them, right? It's worth it to empower yourself, get some power going if you're going to be out in the world making change, right? Get confident in yourself, and that's easy to do. You have it within you. Walk through those steps, super simple. Go to superpowerexperts.com, click on courses, and you'll find the SIPA core training there to help you with that. We love you all. We're so appreciative of you, and we love that you're supporting the network. Keep doing your social impact and making a way for others. Again, Debbie, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you being here. As for all of you out there, thank you so much for listening and for all of your continued support of the network. Remember who you are. We love you, love each other. Goodbye for now.